Welcome to the Salty Dragon Tavern. Pull up a chair, grab a drink, and come listen to us talk about LARP. Tonight, I have some extremely talented people in my possession tonight. Yes, I'm going to use that word. So I'm going to first start off this by introducing themselves. And once they've introduced themselves, then I will go into a couple of announcements, and then we'll start chatting about stuff. So I'll start on my right-hand side.
Yeah, so I'm Chelsea. I've been LARPing for a good 6 years in Australia and a couple of years back over in Canada. I've held positions at Swordcraft of volunteering leadership. I was the guild leader for about 3.5 years, and back in Canada, it was involved in forming, founding, and launching an Arthurian LARP.
I'm Emily. I've been LARPing for 2 years now at Swordcraft. I recently did Blackfire and Bloodlines for the first time as a different LARP. I also help with sign-in at Swordcraft and new player training.
Hi, I'm Destiny. I've been LARPing since 2015. I started at Cicada in New South Wales and then moved to Melbourne, where I started pursuing Swordcraft, Art of the Fall and Black Pattern Bloodlines. And I have also since become the representative for Berg Schneider Australia and also the warband leader for the cartoon at Exodus.
Hi, I'm Larissa. I've been LARPing for about 4.5 years. In that time I've held a couple of senior positions in various warbands at Swordcraft and Exodus, and I'm currently on the community standards team at Exodus.
Hi, I'm Anna. I've been LARPing for about 4.5 years. I started with Larissa. I haven't held any sort of important positions, I guess, but I've been around.
Yeah, I've got to apologise about the softness because it's very different when you got a room full of women as opposed to a room full of men who inherently are just louder. If I turn it up any more, I become very loud when you try and turn up the volume, and everyone else you can just hear. So I'll try not to be too loud, and I'll try not to talk too much because this is essentially their floor. And I was going to get Madeline to actually host this, but unfortunately Madeline is busy Swordcraft organising stuff, so she cannot make it. Neither could Heather. But I see Heather in chat, so hi Heather. I have adjusted their volumes, I've adjusted the microphones as much as I can, and yeah, they're still reasonably quiet, so...
Should we move them maybe closer to us?
Then it'll be in your face.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get louder as it goes along.
Yeah, I'll just stop talking now and just mime. I'll do charades or something. I don't know.
Fair enough.
It's turned into 2 hours of charades.
Yeah. Solid,
yeah. All right. So for you guys, if you possibly can, try and talk louder.
Gotcha.
Project. Everyone just like turned it up to hear you guys, and I just did that. All right. As I said, we are all LARPers, so we do this LARP thing. So if you are interested in about the LARPs that exist in Australia, we actually have a bit of a major event break coming up for the next 2 and a bit months. So June has mostly ended. There's only one event coming up for June, which is Cicadia in New South Wales. They are coming up this weekend. After that, there is only small little things like History Alive, the Abbey Medieval Festival, and a few other bits and pieces. The other small art that's coming up in July is PAX Europa. If you haven't heard of that one, look it up. Their tickets will end soon, I believe, so probably good to look at that one and see what's going on with that one. Then, yeah, there's a big break again. Where August, there's almost no LARPs whatsoever. And right till the end of September, when we'll suddenly have almost 3 of them at once.
Yeah.
So the end of September, we'll have Chimera Productions will be running their weekend game. Swordcraft Quest, or Blood and Gold, will have theirs, as well as Exodus will also have theirs in the last week of September. So Swordcraft Quest is the first week of October, mostly. Yeah. And then before that, Exodus. And right smack bang in the middle of Chimera doing their weekend game. However, there is enough of a LARP community that it doesn't matter too much, so it's not too bad. So if you're interested in those particular things, by all means, look them up on Facebook and search them from by name. I can't actually move too far back. I'm hitting the back of my shelving at the moment, so I will adjust the microphone in a moment once I've gone through this. All right, I don't go too much into the other stuff, so I'm just going to skip a few things and just go straight into let's have a talk. So what remains is welcome to you 5, and I hope you enjoy yourselves. They are new to this to an extent. I think I've had Des on once before, have I? No, okay, I lose track. Welcome to everyone who's come to the chat. Feel free to ask any particular questions about pretty much anything. We're happy to talk about anything here. There is a bit of a schedule that we want to go with tonight, and one of them is we're first going to talk about Black Powder and Bloodlines because that's the one that's gone by recently. Have a bit of a chat with that and about people putting their costumes together and cramming them in the last 2 weeks. see the look at their faces when they're going, oh yeah. But after that, one of the main reasons why you'll see a complete panel of women here is that I wanted to actually get onto that aspect of LARP and women within the community. As I said, I did want Madeline to actually host this, so it would be a complete women panel, but unfortunately, just not enough people in time. All right, so let's talk Black Powder and Bloodlines. Who wants to start?
I went as an NPC.
I was a player character. I played a character called Dr. Darcy Celine Dubois, and she's a patrician who's also a matron of faith. And she's, I think she's got a lot of conflicting loyalties. So it was it was a brilliant love to explore that because it's a game about conflict. So yeah, high antics. High octane emotional antics. Yeah.
One of I've moved my microphone back, so hopefully it's not as bad. If I'm still a bit loud, by all means tell me and I'll try and move it back even more. If I'm not mistaken, Black Powder and Bloodlines has a very limited run. They're not continuous. They don't keep on going. So they're in their third game of about 5 or 6. Yeah. So they actually have a finite amount of games. Yes.
Yeah. So if you want to go, if anyone's watching and they're thinking, I kind of want to go to that lot, you need to go. You need to go. You need to go.
even if you are not, even if you think that you're at the very end of the story, you're not going to get much of the story itself. Still go.
No, the experience you'll get. You'll soak
you'll
it up.
even,
it was your first game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's my first game.
And as an NPC too.
Yeah.
So how did you find soaking up it all whilst it's like you're thrown in the middle of it? So what was that like?
So Nathan and I went as NPCs, and he was we were both main characters. We had main characters and we had side NPC characters. But yeah, we did like a small amount of research on Friday and then jumped straight into it. We're just like, oh god, we should have researched harder. But at the same time, like, wow, everyone was just so good, and we got so much out of it. Like,
yeah,
you really can get what out of it.
As the very first time that you've gone along, do you feel that the not so much the environment, but the feel of the LARP, the way everyone was putting into it, and the way that it was run, inherently made you go first wow, and then already click into your mind to up your game or at least add to it as much as you possibly could?
Yeah, so like because we're NPC characters, there's not really much we can do without the permissions of the game masters. But at the same time, like you've got all these ideas going through your head, what you're going to do next time, and how you're going to change your kit, and like all that kind of thing. Which monster you're going to play next time? Because oh god, they're so fun.
Black Powder and Bloodlines is not your typical LARP in a sense that the combat is deadly for starters.
Yeah. If you die, you die, and also death is a lot more meaningful in that it's not just that it's a thing that happens and then that's it. Like you're dead, but it's also it's not heavily combat. Like you can point your sword at someone and say like, you know, I mortally wound you or something like that. But then you'd have to like put away your weapon and then look them in the eye and be able to say to them in a low voice, I want you to die.
It's the only way you can die.
It's the only way that you can actually kill someone. And so it has to be a very, very intimate moment because death or murder especially is a very intimate theme I think they wanted to explore. So they make it meaningful. Like you can't just like sneakily come up to the back of someone and shank them and be like, haha, see you later, sucker. Like you have to look them in the eye and then tell them that you want them to die.
Yeah.
So it has to mean something for both of you. It has to be impactful for the person who's being murdered and for the murderer. So yeah.
So what happens if, say, your character dies early on?
You have to have a backup plan.
It's literally you are a backup plan, or I think they are generally pretty open to people joining their NPC ranks.
Yeah, we ended up getting like the whole of Seconze in the last Sunday, like midday. We just walked back into the NPC hut and there's all of Seconze. We're like, wow, okay, this is happening.
Yeah.
But I remember these two guys. They died. I think Saturday, and they were struggling to find a character to replace them. And one of them speaks fluent Italian, and the other one is a good enough actor that he can bullshit it. So they were just running around speaking Italian to everyone and just not speaking anything else, and it was amazing.
Giacomo and Tito.
Yeah.
They were fantastic.
Actually, I'm going to quickly answer Wiggit's question because he's do they not have wars in it? The thing about Black Powder and Bloodlines is that another aspect that they explore is colonialism.
Yeah.
So they are essentially in the New World
Yeah.
as a bunch of countries that kind of roughly represent European countries in a sort of loose kind of way, heading over to the Americas. But in this particular case, the natives are orcs.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a very interesting way of putting it. I like how they've done it. So you can, when you play the game, you can actually choose to either be one of the natives and be one of the orcs, and certain special rules come to you for that one, or you pick one of the European nations and you come over on boat and you starting up a new colony.
Yeah.
So starting a war is not really a great thing to do.
It's like kind of. We have two different like townships in Osterheim rather. There's Old Adelina and then there's Charleston, and there is a lot of civil unrest between the two towns. So we're always on the precipice of a civil war breaking out between the both of those towns, and presently because there's a whole lot of like religious stuff that's gone down in the old world. So I know that Padris and Tassanos are now at war because of religious differences, and that's also informed like Angheim and Iskaland. I believe Iskaland has joined up with Padris, and Padris and Iskaland are now allies in that war because and Angheim wants I think the Black Shores back or something like that from Padris. So there's a lot of like again these conflicting ties, and so when you see those people, those countrymen from those different alliances, sometimes you'll get a moment where like Angheimers will like spit at like or just be like, ugh, I hate patricians or something like that. So it ties up into that, and you definitely have those moments of like I guess unrest between player characters because those wars that are happening sort of off screen are informing how other players will perceive you and sort of already welcome or unwelcome your character.
We get actually asked a question. He said he's happy to move on, but I think it is an important question because battles do happen, or at least somewhat large fights.
I was in one. It was great.
Yeah. Was it mostly NPCs versus the players type thing, or?
It was a bit of both. There were NPCs backing each side.
Yeah. So without the needing to kneel down to someone, look in their eyes and tell them that you have to die, if they had a battle and they weren't doing that, then everyone would come back from that battle alive again, just badly hurt, and role play it out that they've been badly hurt, so on and so forth.
You can bleed out.
You can bleed out?
Yeah, if you are left out to die basically, then like
you're dead.
So it's like that's.
Did it happen often or?
No, not at all. And I feel like the times that it has, it's been a big deal to other people because people will be like, where did this person go? Why have they suddenly gone missing? And then an investigation will start to happen. Like we've had a couple of those where it was like, I haven't seen this person since dinner time or lunchtime or since church. Where are they? And then a whole investigation will start to happen, and then people will start looking at that sort of stuff. So there's a whole lot of different, like there's the there's a whole lot of different, I guess, avenues of investigation and detective work and roleplay that you can sort of like get from those instances as well. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So going beyond that, the mechanic of kneeling to someone and saying you have to die now, it's not about you pulling out a dagger and finishing them off. It's not like that so much. It's more of a, I'm going to have a death moment with you where you will die now,
Yeah.
and I'm the one who's basically told you that you need to die now. This is your time. Not so much of me as an actual player stabbing you to finish you off. And that's
Incredibly intimate.
yeah. That's the idea behind it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is the idea behind it. It's I'm going up to you. I'm looking in the eyes. You know exactly who I am, even if it's out of character. I'm telling you to die.
Yeah. I love it.
They really want death to be an important part of your story and other people's stories. So to have that intimate moment really helps bring that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a very actually very important mechanic of the actual whole game was that particular way that they handle death in that sense. So yeah. So yeah, when they have the bigger battles, unless one side's dominated and feels like being absolute pricks, they could technically go in and just like say everyone you have to die and whatnot. But I think there's a certain amount of it's not the purpose of it.
Yeah.
Like if you're meaning to go to someone that they have to die, it's because there might actually be a good amount of in-character reasons why you needed to make that person die. And that's what the whole thing about it is, that you guys have had this back and forth between whoever it is, and then when you come up to them, become that intimate with their death, and that has that meaning to it. It has that emotion attached to it, so yeah.
So I'm intending to go next year.
Yeah.
How much time do you think is needed to prepare a decent amount of kit?
Sorry, before you answer that quick question, there's only been 2 people here who have actually gone to Black Powder and Blood, then, so they are dominating the conversation at this present moment of time.
It depends on how hard you want to hit it. I decided pretty much the end of the first Black Powder and Bloodlines game that I'm going to go to that lot. Because I'd seen a whole bunch of my friends posting about it, and I was like, sick. It's also in a different sort of time period that I wanted to explore with my costuming. And so I went hard with like 18th century style costuming. It was very French working class, kind of like middle upper class as well. And I really drew it out. So by the time that Black Powder and Bloodlines rolled around, I was ready. Like I was done for like weeks in advance.
Whoa.
And I was
Who are you? You're not a lava.
I was starting to help other people with their costuming. So like I mean honestly, the earlier you start, the more things you can add to your arsenal, the things that you can sort of think about. And, yeah, I mean it all depends on just exactly how much you want to what your skill level is, what you think you're capable of doing, and what you want to where you want to go with that as well. So I think like 6 months is pretty healthy if you want to fit in your life and then get to crafting, as well as like having those like little crafternoons and stuff like that with your friends and stuff. Then that's like you're getting kind of relaxed, and then you're getting into the groove, and yeah, I think that's a healthy amount of time.
I should probably start now.
Yeah. Yes.
But of course, then there's the other end of the spectrum in which you have like, what was it, 3 weekends?
3 weekends. Yeah, Nathan and I only decided to go like 4 weeks out of the event. They gave him a nice juicy NPC role, and I'm just like, oh my god, do you know how much work this is going to be? Surprisingly managed to smash out 2 complete kits in 3 weeks, and my tiny little brain did not explode too often. So,
and then once you're there, it's sort of like you get to
once you're there,
take it easy.
Yeah.
That's the same as every LARP, really, though.
Yes.
You're stressed right up until the crunch,
And then
and then you're there and you're like, none of this shit matters.
Yeah. But no, it's definitely worth it. Like, it was nice doing different kit other than medieval, you know, squares and circles. It was fancy, Renaissance
highly recommend it. Like I have a limited amount of LARPing that I can go to, and I decided to run a shisha den. So yeah, it takes up pretty much most of my holiday pay for work. So yeah, it's a bit of a pain. So like, if I was going to Black Belt and Bloodlines, I'd take the Monday and the Friday off. The Friday just to get there early, and Monday so you can recover.
Yeah, it's a very intense, exhausting weekend.
Mm.
Definitely recommend taking the Monday off.
Ah,
I
look.
regret life choices.
Just physically as well, like you don't realize how much walking you're doing.
I got so dehydrated
Because
ridiculous.
it's very much an explorer LARP. Like you're there to explore the new world. So there are many explorers that are out trying to like find resources, and you have to survive for the winter as well. So you need to find your own food resources that you can take into the winter. And yeah, like you just get bloody sore running up and down like from town to town and around. So it's just, but it's a beautiful site. It's such a beautiful site. It's by the ocean. There's cliff tops.
Oh my god.
It's just gorgeous.
I
It's
didn't
so
make
gorgeous.
the cliffs. I really regret that.
I went there. I've been the last 2 games that I the first time I went, that was when I took all my photos. Everyone else took their very wistful, dramatic photos by this time. So yeah, no, I highly recommend if you're going to go to a LARP and then take your dramatic and a LARP and then hashtag it like crazy on Instagram. Just to go to the cliff tops.
Yeah, the cliff tops. Even the pictures of the cliff tops. They've picked a pretty good site for it. Yeah.
Yeah, and as well because it's a colonial LARP, I think that was something
that they did want to do that for that reason. Yeah.
Yeah. Good times. Good times.
Anything else you can add for Black Powder Blue?
The monsters are amazing. I had so much fun playing the monsters.
Bring 2 pairs of boots.
Yes.
It's only a weekend, but like
it gets muddy.
It's not only just mud, but like if you have boots that like can give you different, like, because I find that if I'm walking around and then I have like intense friction points in the boots after a while, like if I just change my boots out, then it's not so bad.
Yeah.
Then I've got my feet can kind of get a break from getting like specific blisters. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But otherwise, it's a good little weekend LARP. Like if you got a full-time job and you find it hard to take off work for like a week-long LARP like Blood and Gold, and you're trying to just get a good roleplay fix in, like a weekend. It's Friday night, Saturday, Sunday evening, you're already going home.
Yeah.
Like you can be back for work.
Yeah.
Like sure, you might be like emotionally distraught, but like
I can deal with it.
The other problem is that the people who run Black Powder and Bloodlines, because I was there when they ran Zeppelin.
Yeah.
And Zeppelin was a lot of fun. I personally didn't get as much out of it as a lot of other people did, but I think it's character choices that I made at the same time, and certain scenarios happened. But they've always been doing good, but they've always gone down this particular path of running the limited seasons, as we said. So as I said, they've got 2 games left in this one, and I know who they are, and I know what they're like.
Yeah.
That once this one finishes, they will just start something else up.
Yeah.
You know, so even if you can't go, even if you're just finding it just is not the right time to do this, keep in touch with them, or at least follow them and see what's going on, and see what they bring up next. Because I know Lisa specifically is like, I've got all these ideas.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, it's been pretty good. I want to ask you a quick question though.
Yeah.
Quick is relative, of course. You've mentioned an Arthurian LARP that you used to run.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about that. I'm curious.
It was so. I picked a terrible time. I had a group of friends in Canada when I was obviously still living there. We decided we wanted to start this Arthurian LARP, and it was a great idea and amazing. The storyline we ripped it straight out of like the King Arthur idea, except that females were allowed to be knights. And lords and ladies, everything about that, but there was no stopping a female from advancing up to like the king. Like we wrote it so that there was no stopping any females from advancing up to the king role or any knightly roles or anything like that. We didn't want those kind of restrictions. unfortunately, we chose to do that as I was also deciding to move to Australia. So
Yeah.
we had, I think, at our peak time, we only had about 20 people going, and
Small LARPs are good LARPs, trust me.
yeah, it was a lot
They are
of
good
fun.
LARPs.
We met once a month
Hmm.
for like a day game kind of idea to try and gain speed. We held one weekend event, but that was about it. And then I moved to Australia.
Yeah.
And I know it did fall to pieces, unfortunately. There were a few people who they were involved in SCA
Hmm.
at the same time. So it was a few SCAers and
Yep.
yeah, moving into this to try and get away from SCA at the same time.
You would have had access to a few good sites though, wouldn't you, to be able to run stuff?
Yeah, so Victoria is a city on an island
Mhm.
just off of the coast of BC, and it has very, very similar weather to Melbourne.
Hmm.
So very rare to get snow in the city. So it meant that we were actually able to run year round rather than getting snowed in
Oh, that's pretty good.
like the rest of most of Canada. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Mm.
A foray into your first LARPing experience
Yeah,
and organising
And
a
I've
LARP.
never LARPed in my life before.
Yeah.
So I just sewed a lot of different costumes in the medieval period.
Did you crash hard learning about all the stuff you
Oh
had to
boy.
do? All right. Any more blood and gold stuff you want to bring out, guys, before we jump on to the next topic?
What's it like for new LARPers, so those who haven't role played really before?
Yeah, okay, so
Experience.
interestingly enough, I've seen every once in a while someone will be like, oh, come to Black Powder Bloodlines, and if you are uncomfortable with role playing, maybe just go an NPC. Don't do that. I do not recommend that, honestly. Um, if you are new to role play, be a player character.
Mm.
Like, you're just gonna have to like
Jump in the deep
jump
end.
into it. That's
Mm.
all. You're just gonna have
Trialified,
to do it.
yep.
You're just gonna have to.
Mm.
I mean, there's a wonderful support community. The community of Black Powder Bloodlines and the player base are very, very supportive of each other. And of course, there are also like your Facebook groups. Like you'll have your nationalities Facebook group. So, for example, I was in the Patrician Facebook group, and then you'll have your church. So there's these little insular communities within the Black Powder community that you can converse with leading up to the game. But then you'll just you'll get there, and then things will just start to happen. Like they'll just kick off. As for an NPC role, like if you're an experienced role player, that's when I think you can dive into NPCing because they need their NPCs to carry their story, and they need them to be able to have the ability to give plot points, to give information, and all that sort of stuff. So you really, really need to sort of have an understanding of how a LARP works, how role playing works, and an understanding, I guess, basically, even very basically, of the game design and intention behind the game design and the design aspects of their game.
There's a bit of an evolution when it comes to being a LARPer, probably even a role player in whatever medium that you use as your role playing thing, where the more experience you get, you also need to be a bit more friendly and lenient to those who are new to the game and become part of that support group as one of the mentors as opposed to one of the first people coming in, a learner. So the group, especially Black Powder and Bloodlines, lots and lots of experienced LARPers in there. Lots.
Yeah.
So when you come into it, there's going to be heaps of people to talk to and heaps of people to get help from. But yes, your evolution, if you're doing all this LARPing, you've been doing it for years and years and years and years, and then you're doing it for more and you're doing it more, always become that mentor. That should also be part of it. Irrelevant who they are, do your best to try and sort of get them to come along. And if it doesn't work, just pass them off to someone else who might fit better. Because always personality clashes always come down to it too. So, but yeah, Black Powder and Bloodlines, it looks intimidating.
Yeah,
It looks intimidating. That's a lot of the reason why people might not come across, because you look at the costuming and stuff like that, you're going to go, whoa, that's a tier above what I'm expecting. But there will be people to help.
On that note, a lot of people say that the costuming is very intimidating, but it's just people who love the game so much that they go hard, they
Yeah.
go ham.
They
I
do.
myself, I bought an entire silicon torso that has like open, it has an open slit,
Yep.
so that and it also bleeds.
Oh, nice.
So I
Really?
bought that specifically
Wow.
for autopsies, and I was like, I'm going to.
All right,
be able
next
to,
month we're gonna do
reach
an
into-
we're gonna do a LARP autopsy.
So, but I've also connected with a whole lot of other like people who play doctors and surgeons and stuff like that in the game, and then just been like, this is how I do blood, this is how I role play surgery, especially if it's on the go, and just trying to as well liaise with people within your occupation is usually a pretty good way of having interactions, or fellow countrymen or people in church. There's always those little insular mini communities that you'll be able to get along with, but don't be at all like, you can add to your costume, you can decide that you're going to step it up for the next game, but it really can be pretty simplistic. It's not actually a game that requires high costuming standards. It's just something that I think the players have brought to the game themselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, you don't need a high level of costuming to be a part of the game, to participate in the game, and to get much out of the game.
I mean,
Cool.
like, it was my relatively first roleplay heavy event. I did go as an NPC. My main NPC character, I did freak out a bit about talking to people and saying the wrong thing. So I mainly ended up doing monsters and random NPC on the left. So that was really fun. They do have the major roles for the NPCs, but they also have like the I need this message sent there, I need this message sent there, like very simple NPC roles. And they always need people for NPC roles. We also had, Nathan played the Don Gavalotti, and he had a sideman with him. And his sideman that was his first roleplay event, and he did absolutely amazing. Like, without him, we would have been so screwed. So, like, if you're confident, do it. Like, they will find a role that will suit you. Like,
As well as
pretty good.
like when you're in it, like you might be like, oh, I'm gonna feel stupid doing like an accent that I know that I'm gonna be bad at. Everyone's got a shitty accent. No one is good at their accents.
And you know,
Very, very, very minute. The sliver of people, like a percentage of people that are very, very good at their accents, and the rest are like they're just role playing it, and they are like they carry it with their role play. And like when you're in it, you don't really notice. You don't get that self-consciousness anymore. Everyone's sort of helping to carry that vehicle.
Yeah.
So you're just like, we're on the bus now, I guess, and we're going somewhere. So
Yeah, it's actually very important because there was a period of time when in my life career where I basically said that accents make a character.
right.
This was not entirely true,
No.
but what accents do help you do is be in character.
But they also help you to differentiate when someone is taking something out of character.
Yes,
So
that's what I mean.
like,
Yeah,
as soon as you drop out of accent, like that's when you know, right, we're now just talking.
Yeah,
player to player.
asking questions if we need to and
that's
so
what
forth.
we're clarifying some
Yeah.
shit. When then you slip back into your character accent, and then it's like that's the I guess the
Trigger.
that shows you we're back into scene. Right.
So yeah, you're absolutely right. If try and do accents or mannerisms is the other one. If it's a recognizable mannerism of the character itself, that also helps. So then you know, okay, you're playing your character now.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, everyone's bad except me. I'm awesome. It's practice.
Yeah.
You know, so just keep doing it and keep doing it, and then you realize you'll get better. And if you still struggle and you can't actually do an accent, keywords.
Yeah.
Actually learn the language you're trying to enact and use actual words from their language actually helps considerably.
Yeah, it was so many people's first LARP ever as well. Like there were a lot of people who came from improv backgrounds and like acting performance backgrounds. I know there was one young woman at the LARP who had come from a cosplay background, never done LARP in her entire life, not even Swordcraft, and was like, I'm going to come to Blackadder Bloodlines, and then threw together very quickly something that she had kind of in her closet, and then she came along and she said that she had a blast. So yeah, there's a whole variety of people that come to Black Powder, and I think it's really something that you can. It has something for everyone. Like, I like if you're looking for a battle game, like it has some aspects of combat, but you're better off staying at Swordcraft.
Yeah, it's not a battle game. If you're only there for the battle, yeah, stay with the battle game group.
Be here for the story.
And the emotional connection when you tell someone that they have to die.
Yeah.
Wild.
Exactly. All right. Any other questions you guys can think of to ask the people who have been to Black Powder and Bloodlines? It's like they're all like, it's over now, but I want to go back, but it's over now, but I want to go back, but it's over now.
Yeah.
I just want to
I'm
play
still
the Children
dealing.
of the Forest again. That was so much fun.
Yeah, it's spooky. The monsters can be very, very spooky. Oh, yeah, I'm still dealing.
Bleed.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get on to our other subject, which is going to be a bit more interesting of a subject, hopefully enlightening. The question, or the general topic, I probably should put, is women in LARP, and the issues that you face in the past and whatnot, and anything else you can think of that might add to this. And then I expect someone to make a bad comment in the chat channel at some point, which I will not tell you about.
Oh, we should probably stop watching.
Oh, damn it, stop! So yeah, this is an interesting topic, and it's probably a bit hard. Does anyone want to start with anything?
Well, I can say, so I'm the lady who's been LARPing the longest out of the group. Was starting about 14 years ago, 15 years ago. It's come a long way. So even when I started with a group there were 6 of us that started, I was the only female, and even then it was fighting tooth and nail to have my voice heard. Thankfully, it's not as bad these days, and depending on the group, the warband that I run with at Swordcraft now is the polar opposite. They push to make sure that the women know that they have a voice and that they can be heard, and they always make sure the guys go out of their way to ask, do you have any input if they're finding that we're being quite quiet. So that's what I'd like to open with, that it's very positive. There's been a lot of positive growth in communities.
I personally still find it's still considered a bit of a boys' game, and so you're expected, if you want to get along or be heard or to be accepted, in a sense, you have to be one of the boys and act and try to interact with them on their terms, rather than perhaps how we interact ordinarily.
Do you find that in your warband or more
Not necessarily in my
outside of it?
warband, but certainly outside of it has been an issue in the past. My warband's actually really good for it as well.
Yeah, our warband is particularly disproportionately female. I think we make up a majority at the moment currently with the dynamics, so it's sort of a little bit easier to get heard when you're not necessarily the minority voice.
Yeah.
There's been an issue with, I guess, the treatment and perhaps not necessarily knowing quite how to interact from men to women, and so situations have come up where they've been inappropriate or pushed the boundaries and not necessarily taken the criticism of, hey, that's not cool.
Yeah.
Seems to be still a bit of an issue.
I haven't had that issue recently, but I have had it at Swordcraft. As recently as a year and a half ago. So
I feel like the biggest issue that a lot of us face at Swordcraft or at LARP in general, I don't think this is unique to Exodus or unique to any particular LARP. It's when you try and criticize or bring up systemic sexism, you get the why are we even talking about this? Like, they sort of on paper agree that sexism is wrong, but don't really necessarily acknowledge when they're doing it.
They don't equate it to their own behaviours.
Yes,
Yeah.
they equate it to other people's behaviours
Yeah.
and not theirs. Yeah. What's a good example of it? You think? Can you think of one?
I think we've
Don't put names out
No,
though.
of course not. Just thinking.
Yeah, so I've had interactions where, and this is also like something that has happened to me sort of in the process of me coming out as a trans woman, where I've had female players often come to me sort of seeing me as a close ally, and I bring it to the warband leaders, the big issue they're having, and there's just no belief, or there's an impossible standard of proof that's often put to them that doesn't seem to feel right.
And expected so often, like if someone's been inappropriate or if there's been an issue of grabbing or that sort of thing, I've been through the court process, and more evidence often is needed for them than what you'd need for court.
Yes,
You
yeah.
have to prove
Yeah, there's a lot
yourself instead of being, I understand this is an issue, let's have a look and see if we can do anything about it, have a conversation or that sort of thing. Or if there's an issue and you've brought it up, it won't necessarily be taken seriously unless you go to, say, a guy friend, a cis man, and get who's, sympathetic to what's happened, and once he comes forward, it's suddenly taken seriously.
It has to be packaged differently.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
And that can be really hard and really isolating.
Go ahead,
Sorry, the comment that has come up in chat about war and strategy in modern society is male dominated. That's both true and untrue all at the same time. So if we look at history, we've got more women involved in the military now than we ever have in the past. Women are taking a lot bigger stance, and that's only by us fighting to say our voices need to be heard. Strategy wise, I would not say that it's male dominated anymore. Women are just as involved in strategizing. We just don't necessarily need to go and say, let's pull a weapon and kill somebody straight away.
And a lot of it is conditioning. We're conditioned to not think of ourselves that way, to not take that role, and to take more of a passive role in things. And we've got to fight what's expected and what we've been told from day dot is expected of us, to put ourselves in those roles. And so there's that extra element, which is why perhaps women aren't seen quite so regularly in those roles.
I think as well that further to what Chelsea was saying, was that you can have those moments where you're in those leadership positions and you are doing the strategizing and the war table thing, but if you are seen to be ruthless or as vicious as maybe any other male is at that war table, then wow,
the double standards. I know.
And I feel like it's also taken strongly out of character as well.
Yes,
Whereas
yes,
if
it
you're
is.
playing a ruthless character, or a bitchy character, immediately I feel like you're painted far worse than.
For me, and by all means, if I'm wrong, tell me. I'm happy. It's not so much about calling someone a bitch so much as that we know inherently what it means and what it's always meant. That if you were to do it a bit more in character, it's because you might actually be saying bitch, but in a respectful way, because you're trying to do it in character and you want them to do more. But that never happens. You're quite right. It just becomes almost an out of character response. And that's the difference that people don't, especially a lot of the men, don't see. When they say it, they don't realise they've just quickly just gone straight out of character and just gone straight for the core.
So Jakey Boy, 1694. Yeah, the aggressive women are bitches, but aggressive men are driven. Yes.
Yeah.
So nail on the head. And I think that as well, a lot of women then don't tend to I guess, put their ball sacks on the table, so to speak. So,
Elephant.
I'm done.
do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. I know what
so
you mean. I
like
know
you
what you
can
mean.
have dudes who like grandstand about their bullshit, and everyone will be like, "Oh, fucking what a fucking champion!"
Mhm.
And then when it comes to a woman being like, "All right, here's my shit," like then it's like, "Oh, don't you think that's a bit
Mhm.
Bit much.
much?" Yeah. So it can be that you have to then temper all of your driven determination, all that sort of stuff. You have to temper it with how am I going to be like perceived by other people?
Yeah.
And especially people that I am allied with or are against. Yeah.
A lot of it comes from an internalized, like, this internalized rubbish that people have, that, you know, we've all got a place, we all have a role, and we shouldn't be leaving our lane.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I was about to get into that too in a different way. But yeah, it's the concept of, like, for me, if you're in because I've been a warband leader before and whatnot, and I've come to many groupings of warband leaders to organise things and whatnot. I inherently think most people are shit. And yeah, I don't want to talk to you, I don't want to deal with you and whatnot, because I just don't think you're know what you're doing, and you just want to be heard half of the time. And in that particular case, there's no room given for that person to improve because I'm not giving them the chance to. So in this particular case, again, yeah, you're right. It's like those swim lanes. That's where you're supposed to be, and I'm just going to shut you down because, you know, this is my scene, and there's particular people that I know who know what they're doing, and I'm forgetting that I need to give these people a chance, even if they don't know what they're doing. I should actually be giving them a chance to actually become those people that I do respect.
To be fair,
In that environment.
I'm in the Las Granadas, and I've found that a lot of the time when it comes to like our women generally, especially our captain, she is a very outspoken woman, and generally she is good enough that she just gets it done, and people sort of have respected like her say on those sorts of things. And I found that as well with like even Danny and Jess and Beck, that sort of they've found that, you know, other people, other warband leaders particularly, I know notably I'm going to say Jonathan Shang from Free Company is actually quite good at sort of seeking our input, or for like any women's input, especially from the Las Granadas. I know that Daniel Higgum from Musion is also very, very good at that as well. There's plenty of them that do this, but just off of the top of my head, those are two sort of stand out that I know will like actively pursue like the say of someone from the Granadas because of, you know, what we're about and what we stand for, and they think that we have prowess and something to bring to the table that maybe they haven't thought of before.
Oh, look, for me, when Granadas came to the field, what, 3-4 years ago now?
Yeah.
I was completely in love, but mainly because they raised the bar on costuming and style. They just like came in and like, holy fuck! And I'm pretty sure it was a good portion of that was Danny doing that. So because she's her style and whatnot, and her ability for designs are like mint perfect. So yeah, it was very interesting. I wouldn't mind actually getting Danny on here for that particular question. Like, do you think, you've been part of the group for a longer period of time, do you think there was a need to do that to be seen and respected?
Yeah, as far as generaling's concerned, especially, and leadership, in the past I've heard a lot of, and from a lot of other women, where they've been a position generaling, that sort of thing, and a guy will come up to them and go, "You're a woman, I don't respect that, I don't agree, you know, you don't know what you're doing." And so it's not just, oh hey, women just aren't in these roles, it's when they are, they're not heard, they're not respected.
In terms of the costuming sort of giving us that sort of edge on that? I would say inherently yes.
Yeah.
Just because there was at the time, I think Sekonze was still relatively new as well, and they sort of came out, and then people were like, "Oh shit!" Like Sekonze, we've got to listen to John, to Heather, to Brett. Like we've got to listen to those people. They're a big war band. They like their costuming's on point, all that sort of stuff. Then when Las Granadas came out, and of course I think they were an offshoot of Balazrai or Renmorn at the time. So it was just sort of like they had to come out of the gates pretty hard in terms of their presence. They had to make sure that people knew that their presence was there, that they were like indeed like a presence, that you couldn't just ignore them, that you felt when they were there on the field. So it was just something that you couldn't really ignore or shy away from or anything like that. I know that coming from even just down to the level on like a player to player, like when you're on the field. For me personally, I know that I felt like coming from Quidditch, which is a very gender inclusive sport. You know, like we'd have people that were maybe new to training. They'd come in, and you know they'd be like, I've played rugby. Like I'm a big dude, and they get very cocky, and it's like, yes, you're very good at the catching and the tackling and all that sort of stuff, but not necessarily you're like they sort of get it in their head sometimes that they were there to wreck nerds, and then you take them to a regionals, and then you watch them get taken down by a 5-foot girl with one arm. There is at no point in Quidditch that I ever felt like no one's going to be like, you're very fast and very strong for a girl. Like, it wasn't like that. It was always like, fuck, you're fast, or fuck, you just wrecked that dude, or like, it was just all like your merit, like what you brought to the game, and because the game is so varied, what you could bring to the game, what your skill set was, it could always be different, and it would always be a different take, like, oh shit, you really like, you nail doing this, or like your strength is this thing, and it's very, very different from how other people approach it. And so when it came to coming into LARP, not even in just swordcraft, like when I started in New South Wales LARPing, I've got a very extensive background in martial arts training and weaponry, and the first time I rocked up to a LARP, a dude tried to tell me how to
God, I hate
someone.
that. Oh, fucking.
And they didn't ask. They didn't say, you know, have you done any fighting before? Have you handled a sword before? Do you know what this is? Do you know what that is? It was an assumption that was made, and I feel like it was made on the basis of my gender, because I realized that it wasn't happening to any of my other friends. You know, it was the question of, are you sure you really want to use a buckler? Because that's a really small shield, and maybe because you're new to fighting, you might need a bigger shield. Do you want to use a sword that's small?
Very condescending.
You should probably get a longer sword, because then it would be easier for you to actually get anywhere in a fight. So it was just very, very condescending, and I even experienced that when I came to Swordcraft, and to be honest, I'd use that to my advantage on the field, because if anyone, and I'm sure that everyone here has, like, if anyone gives you that inch of like, oh, I'm gonna play like less against you because I don't want to, like, you're a girl, so I'm going easy.
Look,
yeah.
I will be.
I have that as a healer, not so much as a girl.
Yeah, as a healer, yeah, especially because like you generally don't wear any armor, so like you don't need to.
Yeah, but then you just fucking get him.
Yeah,
Just get him.
my personal experience, because I came out as trans after I started LARP, I didn't get like that whole introduction when I started, but now every so often a newish sort of newer player that doesn't know me will start like talking down to me, and I'm gonna wreck you. I'm going to wreck you.
Look, I withhold on women, especially a lot when I do a lot of fighting, mainly because I am strong inherently, and I hold back on a lot of guys too because a lot of them annoy me. But I've known a lot of people in this community. I know a few people here and there that I can sort of go hammer and tongs with.
Yeah.
So half the time I just don't know, and there is a bias for me not to do it towards women as much as anyone else.
Have any of you ever been told to your face, I'm not going to fight you because you're a woman?
Yes.
Mm.
Holy shit.
Yes.
So many times. I
On the
hate it
field.
so much.
Yeah, on the field, they pull up, I'm not going to fight you because you're a woman. I'm in armor, holding a sword and shield. I'm not even healing. Like,
I'm not here to fuck spiders, you know what I'm saying? I'm fucking geared up, I'm G'd up, I'm ready to fucking hit someone. Like,
I turned around and went, well, that's rude. And he went, no, it's just being polite. And I'm like, no, it's just being sexist.
why do you think I'm here
With a sword.
with a sword?
yeah.
For the record, she did kill him.
Excellent.
No, has anyone also experienced when a dude comes up to you and then you're like, alright, cool, let's front up for this fight, and then they like hit you twice, like very lightly in the shoulder, and then they walk away because they expect you to go the fuck down because they're just like, I hit you twice, and you know, we both know that, and it's like, no, you did not engage with a fight with me, that was dumb.
Mm.
And
It's
so
also-
generally I will punish you. I will hit you in the back. I have no qualms about killing you.
I have
from
I have a certain set of skills.
Yeah.
So we'll find you.
Yeah. While since healers came up, I think it would be good to talk about the sort of, I guess, unspoken pressure to
of healers
of
and
healers
women.
and
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
The girlfriend role.
Yes,
The girlfriend role.
exactly.
Oh yeah.
That is
Oh
so much.
yeah. I hate that
I
too.
resisted for solid 2 and a bit years being a healer because I'm like, fuck you, I'm not doing the goddamn girlfriend role, fuck everyone, and now I'm doing it. It's fucking great. But
Because it's your choice.
Yeah.
exactly. Not the
But-
point. And I think I get the most joy out of someone like going, oh, you're a healer and a woman. Like, you're not going to be anything. So they come at you, and because I'm a staff healer now, and having someone behind you go, holy shit,
Yeah.
when you've now taken them down.
Mm.
I had that happen.
There is a very, very nice pleasure that you get from hitting someone that has clearly underestimated you.
Yeah, I was healing someone and I got interrupted by this single dude that ran up and he's like, oh, how lucky you feel. I'm like, you want to freaking go me, man? Let's find out. He gave me a couple of whacks and he ran off, and the other guy that I was healing was like, yeah, scary healer.
Yeah, boy.
There's a
Oh,
question.
God.
There's a question that's been asked, but do you guys want to have a break first?
We could probably answer the
Let's
question and then
go
we'll
through
break.
some questions and then have a break.
Okay. Well, there's not that many questions. Just
Yeah.
a couple. One
Yo,
of the,
give us more questions. before we come back.
Just avoid this, don't.
I think the very first question for Wicket. I probably should ask this question beforehand because this is on topic about the someone approaching you with that condescending thing, which I think you already kind of answered it, but was the concept of, is this person coming up to you as if you're just generally shit, or specifically because you're a woman? I think you've already answered that one.
Yeah.
So the next one in the list is, I think pretty much from Jakey Boy. Can you weigh in on the gender-specific game rules, i.e. women-specific armor counting for less?
I haven't ever heard that.
No, I've never heard that one
Oh,
either.
And I think if I ever did hear that rule,
Mm.
I'd probably rip the person to
I
shreds.
remember
Yeah, I
an
know,
issue at Swordcraft, the start of the, what was it, Cuirass?
The demi
That's right. You
Yeah.
get one for the chest, one for the belly, and then one for the back. And
But,
most women wear the
you know,
chest.
because you can't
Actually,
wear
no, there
the full,
is.
the full thing is uncomfortable, like, especially if you're well endowed,
Yeah.
it can be a bit of an issue.
Finding armor
I
is the
think-
hardest thing.
I think it's kind of very surreptitiously put in there, which which used to exist, it doesn't exist anymore, of the steel bone corset.
Men
Yeah.
can wear that though.
True.
So
It's the only example I can think of.
yeah. So the stillbone corset, men could wear that if they wanted to. It was a way to get
It was a Debbie Cuirass, by the way.
yeah. So the demi cuirass, I'd never really thought of it as women specific. So
Mm.
It was definitely marketed to men when you look at it on the
Yeah.
Style Guide Guild website or whatever.
I think it just happened to be that a
I
lot of
think
women wore it.
When
I think
when the armor
It
rules
fits
flipped
through
over,
because you're not worried about your hips.
it was one
Mhm.
of the armor pieces that got hit a little with a.
Yeah.
So there was a bit of a campaign at the time and I think they actually did win in the end because I think it was going to count for 1 and now it counts for 2
Yeah.
when it was
It
put
covers
forward.
the chest and the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
Because
belly.
initially they were like, oh, it doesn't really cover enough of the back or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a bit controversial at the time because it did disproportionately affect women, particularly women who wore that particular armor because it fit over the hips nicely.
Yeah.
I personally noticed since being on estrogen that I can't fit my regular chest plate anymore properly
Yeah.
without it hurting my hips.
Yeah.
So I'm probably going to be getting myself one of those.
Okay, now I understand. Okay.
Yeah,
On
there
corsets.
should be ways for the
Yeah.
for the demi-cuirass. There should be a way to make that if it had gone through. There should have been a way to make it so that it could count, and whether or not that is involving putting a middle
Yeah.
piece in that's like
Yeah.
sectioned or something.
Yeah.
Like I've got a plate belt that goes across my my waist, but doesn't actually cover my chest.
Yeah. But I think that's what the controversy was addressing.
Okay, yeah. So there definitely should have been a way. I've also worn armor that was specially made for a woman of my chest size. That was it was sectional, so you had that flexibility, but also the price point would be prohibitive for
Yeah.
LARP. Like it's ridiculous.
On corsets, in a battle when you're running around and being hit, often it doesn't disperse the hit properly, and so it can quite often hurt a bit more to be hit in a corset. But also you got to be mindful of how tight you're doing it and that sort of thing, because I've done it more than once. Had a corset and just been running around and all of a sudden gone, I can't breathe. And then you're having a panic attack and you can't get it off because you're panicking and the situation is just getting worse.
Yeah.
Corsets can be a time if you don't think it through very well.
Just quickly, so Mish has said anyone can wear the demi. It was going to be nerfed and us women got up in arms. It's one of the best breastplates for our shape. They weren't going to have it count for the back. It is definitely a max of 2. Anyone can wear the demi-cuirass, however, it is the most comfortable and common option plate armor for those with curves.
The problem with this is a very specific set of rules, and yeah, there is feels like a little bit of targeting, but being here since the start of Soulcraft, there's a certain amount of elitism when it comes to the armor rules, irrelevant of
like
who
no
you
matter
are.
Yeah.
About
That's
this.
targeted out for
Yeah,
sure.
it's about this. You should have a proper set of plate mail, otherwise it's not going to count with the mentality of reenactment more than LARPing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think
I feel like this particular nerf was more we got caught in the crossfire.
yeah, I think so.
Oh,
Yeah.
it wasn't necessarily an attack.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it was something they had considered more than something that like they had actively like gone out to get us.
Mm. All right, we're gonna have a break because I know to go to the toilet. And we'll be back. We're back in about 5-10 minutes, then we'll continue on this conversation. Welcome back, everyone. They're still getting the tea.
Still.
The Sawcraft Winter Affair?
The Winter Ball as a event, I'm assuming is what they're pointing at.
Ah, okay, yeah. Tears love, tears life. I actually do agree. I do agree with that.
Hello, Astra.
Hello, Astra. I know you know who you are. All right, yeah. Welcome back. One of the problems about having a break is we lose our train of thought about what we were talking about.
Yeah.
And I had a question too. I was going to ask before the camp break, and then I forgot it completely.
Should have written it down on that notepad you got there.
That notepad, I have things to write down but never do. Welcome back, Dad. Yeah. Don't knock my camera. Limbo. All right. Well, let's go first thing. If you've got any questions, by all means, ask them in the chat. If they're related to any of the issues of the what's happening with the women and stuff like that, by all means, that's where we are currently in the topic. But we've had a break now, so I think we've lost our train of thought.
Someone asked a question.
Someone ask a question. If there's no more questions to be asked, we might think of ask general questions, and we'll go from there, I guess.
Yeah.
If you guys can think of anything you can add to what we've already been said so far, do you think more needs to be? I mean, yes, more needs to be done.
Yeah.
That's actually, now that I think about it, I've got a question. Do you think it's at a point where you just waves against rocks?
Less so now than it was 3 years ago.
Yeah, I feel like, especially in the last year or so,
In the last 6 months, especially.
it's just been, the improvement has been dramatic.
Yeah. I think as well that it's been an attitude shift from the women themselves, in which I know that when I first started Swordcraft in particular, I think it was 2016, maybe it was 2015 as well, it was just after a kind of ripple effect had kind of tapered off from women coming off of that idea of the queen bee of LARP. So there was that whole internalized misogyny that was going on, and women were starting to really break that down and just go, this is some bullshit, we don't need this in our lives. And that's when, as well, the LARP Femme Fatales group started coming around, and I think that was when we really saw a unification of people's feelings and ideas, especially because there was a lot of forums on how women had been treated in LARP, sexual harassment they'd experienced at LARP was a big one. I really think the whole group, especially starting so we could all together fight things, really helped a lot.
Having a united front just made the battering ram just all the more effective. And I think that as well, that all the women in the community have grown closer, whilst not necessarily every single girl in Swordcraft LARP or any other LARP is buddy. At least there's this just sort of we know that we're on the same side.
Yeah.
There's just none of that.
There is a thing where women will go and play against each other, where women go and I'm not finding it as bad, at least not in this warband, and I haven't noticed it as much in the last couple of years, but where instead of building each other up, women would try and make themselves be better.
Because we were competing with each other to be considered different.
Yeah.
And to be, respected and listened to and all of that, and we had to compete for that.
Yes. And thankfully that seems to be stopping a lot. There's a lot more support between the women in the community. And yeah.
The fact that there's a whole warband that exists literally to do that is also...
Yeah. It's empowering as shit.
Yeah, I run with Granadas as well sometimes, and it's just the immense sisterhood is just it's a feeling.
Yeah.
It's an experience.
That's sort of what we could actually do, because like we've done quite a lot of stuff within Soulcraft itself to try and get more representation for women and stuff like that. Like I haven't been Soulcraft for a while because of health reasons, but a while ago, which I think is last year when we had the big photo shoot for Women's Day or something like that, and something related. But I was thinking to myself actually, where we have not even just one night, some nights where all the women who are in leadership positions or wanting to become part of leadership positions lead all of the sides for all of the nights, completely women, no one else.
Yeah.
Be an interesting sort of aspect to sort of take on it. Someone's asked a question, and I've got a question somewhat related to it as well. So the question they've asked is, can you think of anything specific that contributed to the change in the community over the last couple of years or even months? Or has the community just gradually gotten better or stronger along the way?
I think the foundation, the launching of Granadas as a warband is definitely
It's definitely a turning point.
Yeah. The creation of the Facebook group.
Yeah, the starting of the La Femme Fatale's Facebook group, and also the sanitary products box that or
At
the
Quest,
At
yeah,
Quest,
at Quest.
It seems like
That was
such a
when it
small
shifted,
thing.
yeah.
That
Yeah.
seems like such a small thing, but when the La Femme Fatales group came around, and I believe Wendy formerly from the Order, I believe she's now with the Hounds. When she created the group, and then Madeline came onto it as well. That was when you saw women come together. I think it was like that first quest that we had. It was like the last Maypicking quest, maybe.
I think it was one of the earlier magic quests.
Or so maybe like. Yeah.
I think it was
I think so. I think
It
you're
was
right.
the second map
Yeah.
where the
Something
box
like that.
came and the
And
group
it was
started.
it was genuinely just one woman who was like, hey, I have all these leftover, I think it was like hair products, and I don't have a use for them anymore. Does anyone else want to have them? I will give them to you. And then it snowballed into us, other people being like, yeah, actually I have this if anyone wants it. And then it was just sort of like, why don't we put it into a box and then take it to Quest, and then anyone can have whatever they need from it. And then it became like a community effort to supply other women with things that they might be missing out on, like sanitary products, like condoms, like
Toothbrushes,
toothpaste,
hair
just
ties,
things like that,
makeup wipes,
hairspray, just shit like that. And it really sort of like as well shifted, I think, the community inside the bathroom as well. Like that sounds again really weird and silly, but I noticed that there was more of a rapport between women on a day-to-day basis, like at Quest, being just like joking around and having like saying hi and opening to conversation with each other and things like that.
It really
as well
fostered a sisterhood.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that really changed how women sort of then not really perceived each other, but I reckon it just like pushed them out of their shells a little bit more so that they could start to have a conversation.
And with the United Front, it's changed how we as a group approach issues.
Yeah.
And so instead of it competing or one person trying to deal with an issue, we can come to each other and go, right, has anyone else had an issue similar? And we all come together as a group and go, what can we do to fix this now?
Yeah. I feel like it also helped because it was a cross-warband effort. I've noticed one of the problems I've noticed with Swordcraft as a whole, and I think Exodus will have the same problem. I don't see anything that's in Exodus's rule set that's going to fix that. Is warbands tend to be very insular.
They do. They
And,
do. Yes.
When you're already a minority voice in your warband, especially if your warband is incredibly disproportionately male dominated, it can be very difficult to have your voice heard, and it can be very frustrating, and you don't really have anyone to talk to. Well, initially I didn't feel like I had anyone to talk to when I was in my own insular bubble, whereas now I feel like there's a lot more openness, at least within Swordcraft and other LARPs.
Yeah.
I have to ask, we've talked a lot about the guys, and we've kind of touched on the topic just now. We've talked a lot about, men excluding women and all that. Have any of you ever felt kind of terrified and intimidated by other women in the community? Like myself personally, I am terrified to approach a woman. I will approach a man to talk to him about stuff
I
before I
find
will
that
approach a woman.
completely funny about you.
Hmm?
I find that very funny about you.
Really?
Yeah, you.
Um,
It could be my perspective of it, but you actually come across as one of the more intimidated women.
Intimidating.
Intimidating, yes.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
Mm.
I have found you very intimidating.
Yeah, the resting bitch face really
Yeah.
does it for
Yeah.
me.
Oh, look, I've known you long enough and interacted with you long enough to still know it's beyond that. So,
I was bullied a lot in high school by women and not by men, well, boys. And same in primary. So because of that, I have always put up a barrier between myself and other women, and it's something that I'm trying to work on breaking down. And I'm just curious how many other women in the community experience that same thing. And I would encourage anyone who has ever felt that way, please send me a direct message. I would love to get it, and I'd love to start. Actually, it would really help me to start breaking down that wall and coming out a little bit more into
Yeah.
the whole community of women out there.
we've got a lot of questions actually in the chat now,
There's
which
lots
is
of
interesting.
questions.
I wanted to ask my question, which was related to the original one that Spider 11 had put together. Mine was somewhat related in the sense that, do you think the general Victorian people, Australian people, so on and so forth, probably more Victorian because of the way the government's kind of pushing sort of in a direction, has helped? Do you think it actually has an influence at all? Or do you think that the community itself is more better than the average person? I guess it's the bad way of putting it. But do you think the general environment of people in Melbourne has improved generally to make the community itself be more aware of what's going on to make them also improve?
I think it's probably more a credit to our community itself than I would say anything pushed against about laws. Because the LARP community is so insular and can be, it does tend towards focusing on the negatives. And there has been a huge push in the last year about the positives and staying positive, and let's try and be positive. And I can't remember exactly who, but started the sweet craft group for the memes. Yeah, it's a package. Started that group, and that was when there was kind of a shift. It's such a small thing,
Yeah,
and
it's always a small thing, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like the reason it's taken off is because, particularly the Sweetcraft and other more recent, more positive things have taken off a lot more effectively, is because they seem to come from a place of genuine like affection for the community we're in, rather than just a let's focus on the bad so we can ignore let's focus on the good so we can ignore the bad.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily, it doesn't feel like it's sweeping it under the table anymore. It's
yeah.
But like, I'm going to put a different angle on this. Like for me, in the last year and a half, we've had 3 or 4 women being killed or had their bodies killed in that area alone.
Including one from our community.
Yeah, including one from our community. And that roughly coincides with everything suddenly getting better on your time frames from what you guys have said. So that, to me, is an example of the news itself and all the events that happened, that had to unfortunately happen, has improved everything because of those unfortunate events. That's kind of what was getting to.
I think it's really just hitting home for the guys. Like, it's like, actually, no, I do care about these women in my warband, and I don't want them to be in a situation like that. I don't want them to be. It's really opened their eyes to, like, maybe this is happening, not to that level of, hey, they're getting murdered, but, I don't want them to be uncomfortable walking home or to the train station. And
it also feels like there's a strong, we can say, this is why we're afraid.
Yeah.
This is what we've been warning you about.
Or as well, there's like more of a culture as well of like men sort of being now woke enough, I guess, to actually understand the problems that women face, and like especially in the more micro scale sort of sense, like I've seen like dudes talking with other guys, talking about women in a pretty derogatory way, and then they'll just be like, "Fucking wake up to yourself!" Like no one's here for that. And then they'll just be like, right, okay, so that's the culture here. Like, I can't do that anymore. And so just slowly, you've got like a recalibration of this entire section of Swordcraft or even of our community. And I think that really helps to get support from our male counterparts. In terms of those situations, it's a cultural change. It's a complete cultural change because it's not just down to, all right, well, guys, just stop killing women.
I mean, also, like, in the last, I've only been doing Swordcraft for 2 years, and, like, I haven't had as many issues as I've heard around the room today, but I think that's because of the women who have come before me. But also, like, there's a lot more input from women. There's a lot more women coming into the sport as well.
There is,
so
that's
that
true.
shift will change just from having us there, and you can't ignore us now. We're so large.
And certainly there's more support within warbands to encourage women to stay when they come, because when I started, a lot of women were doing noob training, or from what I was seeing, like, we'd see an influx and there'd be women coming, but then they wouldn't stay.
Yeah.
It's the staying power. I think that really matters. And I think that as well, I know that very quickly there was, Bredalicious said, I feel like I know who that is.
I think we all do.
How do we get more women involved in LARP? And honestly, that's kind of, I feel like, at least in the way that I'm going to answer it, is kind of a very strange answer that I'm going to give, because it's a bit of a paradox. You need to have the space for women. It needs to be occupied by women. And I think then, like, people like women or anyone that is in a minority, they need to be able to see themselves within the community. And that will allow them to then start to feel like, okay, I'm welcome in this space. And I think that we need to do as much as we can to welcome them, to feed that the first couple of months, like, their support group and becoming their support group, and knowing that they are safe and that they have a place here and that they are part of the community, so that they know that they are part of us. And that's what the staying power is.
We are their network.
Yeah, like, people don't go to Swordcraft for Swordcraft in of itself. They stay for the people.
They do, correct. Yes. Yeah.
Like,
My children.
Exactly.
I've always long maintained that the reason I go to Quest isn't because of the role playing or the costuming. Like, sure, I love to role play and I love costuming, but the reason I stay is because I like going camping with my friends.
Yeah, it's a massive social thing that people don't realise that they need half the time. You're quite right. They do go for it, and
and
the more inclusive it is, the more people will come in. Yeah,
and that goes for, like, almost any minority group. I am definitely a lot more comfortable at Swordcraft because of how many trans people are openly and happily at Swordcraft. And it's, again, more trans people will come if there are more of us.
If you build it, they will come.
Yes.
But I believe that Chelsea has a pretty compelling question. No, was that last one?
All right, don't ask questions, because we're unfortunately pushing other questions up the list.
Right.
You see, that's the problem, and they are a little bit out of sequence about the conversations that we're having. So, like, as an example, one of the questions that's already stretched way past the actual chat itself is from Mungendaster, which I really like the name. What can guys do to help improve women? Involve. That's my bad wording. Sorry. Involve women in a constructive way. I've got one straight off the bat. Men inherently are intimidating, even if they don't mean to be. Try not to be, which is easier said than done.
Stop talking.
Yeah.
Listen. Actively listen. Like, don't just stop talking and let's talk. Actively listen to what we have to say. what else is there? Call each other out when you're saying derogatory and shit things.
Yeah.
Like, don't leave it up to us to go, hey, that's actually kind of shit. No, it's more effective when it comes from your peers.
Especially when you do it in front of a woman.
Yeah.
When we already don't feel listened to and have to feel like we're having to scream to just be heard, it is sometimes just really nice to know that we've got someone that's completely on our side, actually does care about what we have to say, and is willing to stand up for us. It is really, really tiring to have to fight sexism by yourself.
But I think as well that as we kind of already hashed, it's a cultural change, and it's not going to be automatic, and I don't think that men should be afraid of, well, if I even try to change and then I slip up and then I get told off, no, it's got to be it's a recalibration of how you sort of compute your biases. So it's really actually trying to reboot your brain out of those biases so that you can have those open conversations with women, so that you can explore those moments with women, so that you can accept them much more truthfully into the community than just saying yay women, and then having a token pink ribbon or some shit
It becomes less performative and more
exactly. Then it's honest. It's honest. What we're looking for is honest acceptance of women.
There's also a very male inherent male society thing where don't talk about your shit, toughen up. Which also becomes part of it, because if you're not treating a woman with any respect and whatnot, because it's inherently just who you are, then you're trying to become someone better than that person, and you do fuck it up, and you're inherently don't ask anyone, how did I do this wrong? How do I fix this? How do I talk to someone? How do I do this? Because you don't do that.
Don't dismiss your sexism as just being an asshole.
Yeah.
It's not something to be proud of. You should be aiming to be better.
Yeah, but also no one wants I think that to an extent a lot of people are sexist. That's just the culture and the society that we live in. However, it can be something that can be changed or looked at, examined. It can be improved upon, and that's not a bad thing.
It's like learning a new skill.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's almost this is a very, very lame example, but when you meet someone new and then you ask for their name and then you forget it 10 seconds later, and then you be give it to me again, sorry. So it's just relearning that thing. It's just it's gonna become habit at one stage or another, and it's just a being open, and it's a process of learning and learning to interact with people who are basically, they are your peers. The women in your society, I think, are ready to talk to people about this as well and be open about it. It needs to be welcomed, I suppose, in a way. Yeah.
Which I think it is.
Yeah, for sure. It's more and more
There's
more and more. Yeah, it's very much welcome.
I know we're not supposed to respond to questions outside of the
They have the list, because there's a lot of questions now.
one that says, do the desired changes require greater social changes outside of LARP? No.
The change starts with us.
Yeah, why can't our community drive it?
Why not you, Eva Wiglet?
Wiglet.
Or Wiget, I should say.
Nah, Wiglet's fine.
Yeah. No, but it starts with us. I mean, I remember being what I call a pick-me-ass bitch, which is when you are I'm not like other girls, and I'm I'm one of the guys,
Yeah.
That was just so inherently toxic to not only myself, like as a woman, but also to other women around me. And I honestly was just not deserving of any of the female friendships that I sort of like shunned to the side. And I I quickly changed that when someone like kind of just told me that to my face and was just like, well then like these people are great. Why aren't you interacting with them? Like why wouldn't you? And it's just sort of like I didn't have a good fucking answer for that. I really didn't. And there was no reason for me to ostracize other women simply for the fact that they were other women. I felt like I was competing for that time at the table. And that's not a thing. Everyone can have a place at the table. You don't have to fight over it.
I'm just gonna go cough outside.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh, she's talking about green screen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think there is a big problem with sexism in the general nerd community, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we should just dismiss how much good progress we've made within the Victorian LARP scene, because I think we're doing pretty well. I think we're actually
Long way to go, but
I feel like we're at the moment we are still a cut above the nerd community.
Like I think that like there is a bubble that our little community exists in. It's the same thing with like I feel like with Quidditch as well. They exist in their own little bubble. And then when you break out of that, it can be a bit of a rude shock. Like, oh, this is not the world view everywhere.
yeah.
And so when it's like comes to LARP, it's the same thing. Like you've got a lot of people who are in like there's a section of the polyamorous sort of community as well that are very, very like accepted and well known in the LARP, as well as gender like non-binary sort of people, gender inclusivity, and a lot of queer folk as well who have their own like sections in the community but are part of the wider community and are widely accepted.
It's a very good point actually about putting that. It's like, yeah, the community itself could be a voice of change or a group of change or a visual of change. Because if we're perceived as a outside of the norm and a more inclusive group towards all the other types of people, all the other minorities, then yeah, more of these people actually come to this particular group because they actually feel better about it.
Yeah.
So we'll see more women come in, we'll see more transgender people come in, we'll see probably more people of colours and races that we don't normally see, because it's very white dominated what we see.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
yeah. Well, this is very, very role-playing in a tabletop sense is very Anglo-Saxon in a lot of ways. So, like last Blood and Gold, when I think it was the Drakes had this guy, he was like, I think Somalian and whatnot. I didn't get a chance because I get stuck in the shisha den a lot, but like seeing someone who was not white was like fantastic. To be able to see like other people from other cultures and other backgrounds and stuff like that be able to come in. And when I mean backgrounds, I mean every background. Like, and a very inclusive environment. Yeah, and they'll come.
I've got a quick, I know the question thing, but I'm going to break that mold again.
Oh, Jesus.
Isn't there some danger in forcing change to a smaller community when the wider community isn't there yet? What have you got to fucking lose? Except for the respect and friendship of all these females and the queer community and the trans community.
And people of colour and, you know.
They are already part of the community. It's just...
The change starts here and we can take that into the rest of the world.
And who's forcing it? Like, no one's forcing anything.
The next comment, educating change isn't the same as forcing change.
Yeah, exactly.
I think people
And that's what we're going for.
Go off, be Cobra.
Like, just from my own experience, there was a person like during like my first year of LARP, with my first conversation with them, they informed me that there was only two genders, and the improvement this person has made has gotten to a point now where I consider them one of the best trans allies I know.
Yeah.
That's pretty
and
good.
That's just from my experience of vaguely knowing them and vaguely interacting with them a fair bit at LARP events. And so like I'm really big on helping get people to a point where they can, because I feel like a lot of the time it's just ignorance. And
It is,
But they've
and
also got to be
conditioning too.
receptive.
Yeah.
Well,
Mm.
as someone who's only recently joined the LARP scene, I never before LARP had interacted with a transgender, non-binary person before in my life. Like, this was my first experience, and I'm like, oh god, what do I say? I don't want to fuck this up. You know, like, the community helps you get better and deal with that sort of thing really easy. Because, like, when I got there, I was just like, oh, it's just the norm. This is what we do.
Yeah.
And you're allowed to slip up, and people know that people aren't perfect. And so if you're corrected, make the effort.
That's a very important part. Is you're going to slip up, Simple as that.
Everyone does.
And that
you cannot know all the photos.
it's right. And if you, one of the worst things a lot of people do is that once you've told them that they've slipped up, then double down
Yeah.
and become far worse.
Or they try to deflect it to try
Yeah.
and get I had a guy only like a month ago misgender me, and I corrected him, and like he used the pronoun he. For the record, my pronouns are she, her. And I asked him, hey, look, I'm a she, and he's like, oh no, I meant it gender neutrally, and I'm like, no, you didn't.
I had a similar, like, one of our warband members is dating an ace person, and I kept calling them sweetie and dolls at the end of a quest event, and I'm just like, hang on a minute, is that okay? And they were like, yeah, that's fine. I'm like, okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't like slightly offending you.
And everyone has different things that they are receptive to. So not every trans woman is going to be upset if you call them dude, but make sure, like, it's not
I mean, I was
hey,
calling
are
the
you
guys
okay with
sweetie and
this?
dolls as well.
And if they say no, you don't just go, well, that I just call everyone that. You go, okay, I will try to remember that you in particular don't like it.
Yeah. And that's why I double check with them. I didn't want to offend them, but I like care about them, and I didn't want to be saying the wrong thing to them.
Gender is tricky for a lot of people to get their heads around, and it does cater to a bit of a scenario. Like for me, I've got just an inherently bad memory. If you ever knew me, you'd understand. Like the very first time I met Charlie, as an example, Charlie was going to come tonight. Immediately met her as a her, straight off the bat. And it's been inherently always been calling her a she, because that's how I was introduced to her, and that's how my brain switched on. So when it becomes to some people who have gone the transition in the period of time that I've known them, it's extremely difficult to just get my subconscious brain, because it's the subconscious brain that's doing it, to go, no, other one.
See, that's for me. It's also because I transitioned whilst at Soulcraft. There's a lot of people that interacted with me in like the early days and just had much since.
Yeah.
And because of how like gradual a process it is, a lot of people just haven't noticed
The change so much.
how much I've changed.
Yeah.
Like I get a lot of like holy shit from people that like see me in incremental periods. We've got a couple of interstaters in our warband that get like shocked every time they see me. But it's quite difficult sometimes to sort of get the word around.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, just do the Aussie way of doing it. Just go, mate.
Look, I'm not your mate, damn it.
No, not your buddy guy. All right, I'm gonna scroll back up to some of the other questions I think we've skipped over. There's so much text now to go through. Okay. How can we continue to improve the environment for women in positions of power in the LARP community?
Take them seriously.
Yeah.
I think we have kind of covered that one earlier.
Have them in power.
Allow them.
Encourage them to be in power.
Yeah.
Tell them they can do that. So if you know someone in your warband who is capable and who, may not have put themselves forward because they don't see themselves in a position, because that's not, what society has allowed us. That's not what they've conditioned us. If you think that, put them forward and let them know, build them up.
One thing Scourge did on the International Women's Day, when was that, February?
Something like that, yeah.
And this most recent one is Dan and Trent approached me and said, we want the women to lead that night. And I made every single female take a turn alongside me of running around. So we have, I think it was 8 women in total, and every single one of them ran it alongside me. Even one member who has absolutely no desire to ever actually lead, I still pushed her and she stepped up and she led that round just so she knew, she could say she'd done it and she knew that it wasn't really for her.
Yeah.
It wasn't just I have no desire because I don't feel like I'm empowered. It was okay, I've given it a shot, I really don't want to do it.
There's a certain amount of there's a lot of numbers that get thrown around about the 50% type thing for women and men in power. No, I don't agree you need to do that, but at the same time you need to give them all a chance to actually see if they can do that, because they've been pushed out so much that they don't even know if they could or not, if they're worthy of those positions.
You
Like
need to
before,
create the opportunity.
exactly, create the opportunities for it. That's exactly it. Yeah.
It's really good now that we've got some females in the exec team, and that there is, a bigger exec team.
It's like it's the same over at Exodus. I'm really happy that we've got like myself on the community standards team as a female voice, and we also have Astra as a non-binary voice. That's just, it's better than just having a group of men to discuss all these issues.
Issues that they might not have experience in.
They don't have the nuance.
Not saying that they aren't
qualified.
qualified.
It's not bagging them. It's that everyone comes
There are
to
other
the table
sides.
with different experiences, and
Perception.
the experience of misogyny is one that is not common amongst men.
Before we go on, there's a lot of questions that we're going to go through. We're running out of time, just so you're aware. So if I don't get to your question, I apologise. I don't want to keep. I actually probably will do another one later, because we have these conversations and we get quite a few people come on the channel and it gets a bit of a conversation topic, but then it does sort of drift off and people forget about it again.
So write down some of the questions when we finish.
Look, I'm talking like in 6 months or something like that. Maybe when we're coming after the next Blood and Gold or something like that. That huge event where there's like 3 laps almost all at once. Craziness. So I'm also going to do a bit of a skip because there's a bit of a question right at the end. I like because it's a non-LARPer. So I want to go, that's a really good question to ask. Okay, so, I'm not a LARPer, but I am curious about it. Is the community generally good in regards to females, or is it a bit different due to roleplay and the sometimes sexual context given to it?
I don't think I've ever had my character, that I knowingly anyway, I've never had my character sexualized.
No, I don't think I have
Ever.
I would say Swordcraft I wouldn't describe as the most sexual of LARPs.
That's true.
I
That's true.
would actually describe it as pretty PG-13. And so I don't think
Till you start talking to some particular groups of the quest.
I'm just gonna
Gloss over that.
And
Put it away. We don't touch that.
I think there is definitely a bit of a problem sometimes, particularly when alcohol is involved.
Yes.
With men hitting on women. Anna, I believe you got hit on at one of the Mapkin quests, for 4 days straight.
Oh my god. I said I wasn't interested, so the next day he tried again and I'm like, oh darling, please stop.
Not playing hard to get here, just really I'm not interested.
Actually, I thought about something that someone's been saying in the chat. If you're worrying about pronouns, There's a nice, easy way to actually probably get around it. Ask their name. Call them by
Who
their name.
remembers their name though?
Yeah, I don't, but it's another tool.
Yeah, asking their name. Also, as I'm gonna say this as a representative of the trans collective, hive mind.
Yeah.
Suddenly they're just like.
Generally, it's if you're not sure about someone's pronouns, ask.
You shouldn't be embarrassed to ask. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
I
sure
can
that they would
promise you people
appreciate.
appreciate
I would-
it.
I-
because you put your
The
thought-
trans hive mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Collective, join us.
Yeah.
We are the trans. You'll be assimilated.
It's generally good to ask. And asking our pronouns not only does it tell us that, like, okay, you don't know, but also it allows us to know that you are open to hearing what our pronouns are and actually caring enough to know what our
Long
pronouns
story
are.
short, give a shit about people. Shit.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think as well, anyone, like whether it be a woman, a cis woman who has experienced sexism all their lives, and then they hear something off color about like women in general, and they hear it from a man. I think there's this little switch that goes off in their brain that goes, that person is unsafe.
Yeah.
And I will never interact with them. Not alone, not over my dead body. And then I think the same thing would go for people in the queer or trans community. If you just hear like one iota of like a thing that just sounds like, oh, that's a bit
On the nose.
that sickens me a little bit. That's when you're just like, that person is not an ally. Like they're not going to empathize with my plight, or they're not going to be someone that I can turn to for any kind of safety or anything like that, or emotional support. And that's when you, like, again, that's why a cultural shift is really, really important, because you're really putting on blast just what kind of person you are going to be for those people that need you.
Yeah, and we do need it. Like, we need allies.
Yeah.
It's the only way things change.
Yeah. And we appreciate allies.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
All right. Anything else you guys want to add to this conversation before we finish up for the night? This is your last say, per se, to the jury.
Don't be shit. Treat each other with respect.
Yeah.
Listen actively.
Yeah.
And keep putting the effort in that you have been putting in.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of guys out there who've been putting in a really good effort to include women and to push for that kind of inclusivity.
Yeah.
But don't stop thinking, okay, I've done my part.
Yeah.
Just keep going. Well, you've got the role. Just keep going.
Yeah. And as well, like, to temper that as well, it's something that you're not going to get a gold star for all the time.
Yeah.
Like, being good and inclusive to women and non-binary and trans folk and queer folk, you're not going to get a gold star or a cookie or a medal for being decent. Like, it's just what the community needs from every individual. I think, yeah. What else?
It matters the reason you're doing something. So if you're doing it because it'll get you, attention, gold star, look at how good I'm being, all of that, then you're not doing it for the right reasons.
No, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
As a man, and I know it's very difficult. The toxic masculinity also is a big factor of it as well.
Yeah.
So stop that shit as much as you can, but at the same time, that's going to take a lot of effort to get past. But
hey, if you need therapy for it, please get it.
yeah, get therapy. It's
There's
not.
no shame in that.
There's no shame in it, and it's not that expensive if you're worried about price, because that actually is a key factor
There's
of it.
10 free sessions you can do to start with.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you go to the right doctor for the right things, they can get you weekly sessions.
Yes, go see your doctor first. Go see your doctor about all that type of stuff. If you work for a good company, which I do, they'll even have those services for you as well. So check out your company and see what they've got available. because they will actually have stuff for you for that stuff. They're smart enough to understand that it's an issue too these days. It's getting better and better and better, and they'll have services as well.
Oh,
Ask around.
yeah, as well, I was going to say that if you're a woman and you're watching this stream, the LARP Femme Fatales group is a really, really good resource for sort of joining that sisterhood of LARPers in our community. It is primarily Australian. A lot of it is based in Victoria, but I know that it's been getting a lot of traction internationally as well.
Yeah.
But that's a really good start. That's a really good resource to sort of find those connections and to have those conversations, to feel a little bit more welcome in the community. And like I guess as Chelsea was saying, reach out to your fellow girls, because those are going to be valuable relationships and friendships that you can have for many years down the line. And they are valuable.
And my final note is that you don't have to be friends with everyone.
Yeah.
You know, just give everyone respect, not because of who they are, but because they're human beings.
Yeah.
If you hate them afterwards because of the things they've done and they haven't learnt and they don't want to learn and so on and so forth, that's different. You're allowed to hate people because they're
But
big
you still
dicks.
treat them with basic decency.
Correct.
Yeah.
You don't treat anyone differently because of the colour of the skin, if they have boobs or not, or anything like that. Simple as that.
Yeah.
I probably stepped over my line on that one.
But yes, alrighty.
Alright.
And there was also a mention from Astra Allura.
Yes.
EAP, also Soulcraft queers rather.
Yeah,
EAP?
Soulcraft Queers is.
Employee assistance program.
Yep.
Ah, okay, yeah, employee assistance program.
And
Yes.
Yeah.
Soulcraft Queers is also another sort of. I think it should change its name. It's sort of more of a general LARP queers now, but yeah,
Yeah.
it also exists. It's a great resource for
And support network
for support network for queer soulcrafters.
and queer laughers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool beans.
Yeah.
Well, it is a little bit past 10 o'clock, and I know we can keep talking forever, but it is late, especially for a lot of people listening, and I know that their attention span of most of the ADH people in our community is small. Thank you all for coming along tonight. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. You've had your first experience sort of being public broadcasters in your little lives. Nice, mate. You had your green screen and missing half your head. Thank you all for coming along and having a chat with us tonight and asking all the questions. It's been a very, hopefully good topic, and hopefully it helps some people, or at least gets the news out there. We will probably do something like this again. If you are actually interested and I like you, no, I'm just kidding. If you're interested, just contact me. I might get you on board if I remember, because I'm bad at remembering things. So everyone, say good night. Say thank you all for coming, and we'll talk to you all another time.
Wait.
It's probably still going because of the weird